Hello and welcome. This is the IPLD community call for anyone who would like to join us. It is February the 14th. We do these calls about every 2 weeks, and people who would like to contribute or find out more about IPLD stuff, you should join us here. We're going to do 2 phases of this meeting. We're going to go on the record, and we're streaming live to YouTube now, and these meeting recordings will be made available for posterity. Anybody who would like to share updates about stuff they're working on that's IPLD related or developments they're making in the IPLD ecosystem, this is a great time to do it. We are also going to do a little bit more informal roundtable that is not fully recorded at the end of this meeting. So if you have things that you would like to share and you want a free and open environment to do that, open but less recorded, that's available too. If you are joining us, we also have some meeting notes that are in a shared document in HackMD. And you can find links to all of these things in the github.com/IPLD/team-management repo. I don't know, find it. The first thing I'll do in running through our shared notes document is see that there are some notes from VMX, who I think is not here to present these, so I'll do it on his behalf. We've had lots of releases of Rust IPLD libraries in the last week or so. There's a new version of Rust multihash, there's a new tagged version of Rust CID, and there's a new tagged version of libIPLD in Rust. And apparently lots more codecs passing, lots more test fixtures, which sounds like good stuff, and more support for no standard library, which also sounds very exciting. Yay, Rust. I don't want to do myself right in a row. I want to give my mouth a break. So Will Scott, may I choose you to continue?
This is out of order and unexpected.
Surprise.
But sure. The only thing that I've remembered so far to write down is that I said on the last of one of these calls that there was some work on thinking through the traversal library where you walk through what's matched by selector to support some resumption use cases. So in particular, you get partway through either writing out a car or doing a graph sync traversal or some other data transfer, and the connection disconnects and then later comes back on. So there's now a couple PRs about that that are in the IPLD Prime repo. With a couple different options. They've gotten some review already, and we're trying to think through what makes sense to live at that level and what's sort of probably closer to data transfer and should be a level above wrapping stuff. But there's also, I guess there's 2 PRs that are active in IPLD Prime, and then there's also an implementation that's already getting some use of this in the older IPLD format instance. So trying to understand why that got made and how we can support the same features in the current set of libraries. I think that's all for me.
All right, I'll go back into order in my doc. So I've got a couple of technical things that we'll share just real briefly that I've been working on, and then one more policy-oriented thing. So for tech stuff, I've been starting to grind away on trying to produce a patch system for IPLD. The idea is to do something very declarative and basically go with the JSON patch RFC, which is a pretty well-rounded RFC, and have something based on that which you can apply to IPLD documents. So it would have many of the same features that JSON patch does: declarative add, remove, move, etc. But being based on IPLD libraries, it should be able to work on your choice of codec, of course. It should work even with lensing systems like schemas. It should work even with lensing systems like ADLs. And what else is going to be cool here? Oh, of course, it should work over links. So the idea is even if you have a large DAG that includes many sub-documents connected by content addressable links, if you have a patch operation, which has a path that goes across several links, the system should be able to update all of those documents and regenerate all of the intermediate links as well, and then just give you the CID of the new route. This will be pretty cool. There's a work in progress PR in the Go IPLD Prime repo and some other PRs to the IPLD meta specs repo, which contains some fixtures. So far, I'm mostly grabbing fixtures from the JSON patch RFC because it's a well-written RFC and those exist. In a couple places, things are diverging a tiny bit. For example, we maintain map order and the JSON patch RPC didn't. So there are a couple of small switches like this, but mostly uninteresting. This has recently caused me to discover one other technical yak shave that I'm having to dive into. The Go libraries have not been super consistent historically about the error handling around, and if it is indeed even an error, to have values be not found as you're walking around a series of nodes. So I've opened an issue to discuss that topic. I'm proposing that we should probably refactor a bunch of the library to use absent placeholder values instead of using error handling to describe values not found. As I'm trying to implement this patch logic, I'm finding the error handling path is rather gnarly, and I keep running into null pointer exceptions quite a lot. And I'm thinking this would be drastically easier if we just use the absent value consistently. Migrating to that might be painful, but I don't think it will get less painful as more time passes either. So, but feedback welcome on this. Then on a policy note, I'm thinking that it would be great to get more people involved in the ability to merge PRs across some of this stuff, and especially in the Go IPLD Prime repo. I'd like to propose we do a model of like +2 and +1 votes as people do reviews. And people who have been core contributors for a while and are like persistently involved in merging and maintaining can cast +2 votes. And people who have done some contributions before should get +1 votes roughly. And as long as you can get a +2 total in some PR, then my proposal is that we should feel good about merging. How exactly to implement this may be subject to some more discussion, but I've put more notes on this in the IPLD chat channels in Discord and Matrix. So if people want to look at that and offer more comments there, please do. We'll probably figure out how to formalize this more in the coming weeks. And I think that is it for me. I see Rod is next in the document, if you'd like to take it away.
Yeah, just some small things. Noteworthy, not my work, mainly Gonzalo's work. He's been pushing through a sync hasher interface through the JavaScript stack. In our JavaScript stack, we do our hashes as asynchronous because particularly in the browser, you have access to these async APIs for hash algorithms. So that's sort of asynchronous is lowest common denominator. Anything that might have to be asynchronous has to be asynchronous. So that's been our parent interface for all of the hashes, even though a lot of them are not asynchronous. But there's been a use case in UnixFS. Gonzalo's been working on UnixFS, cleaning that up, and wants to use the hasher, the Murmur3 hasher in that, and it being asynchronous is annoying because it doesn't need to be, and it's inefficient. So he's pushed through a sort of an optionally sync interface for multi-hasher, and that goes down to Murmur3. And there are places where you can do this, like identity hash, for example, is another one that's easy to be synchronous. And then what it means is for users is if they want, they can feature detect whether a hasher is synchronous or asynchronous. And if they would rather go for the synchronous API, they can downscale from that. Otherwise, they can just await anything, any hash thing. So that's there's a pull request there with discussion. We merged it and then had to back it out because it broke the TypeScript types for that package, which had a flow-on effect to JS IPFS. So we're redoing that, and we're having a discussion about how to best do the breakage of that. So slightly awkward, but might be interesting for JavaScript people. Two things in IPLD Prime. One is IPLD garbage is now in IPLD Prime. So IPLD Prime is officially garbage capable. It's just a little utility to generate garbage blocks of different sizes using, and you can weight different kinds in there as well and get some interesting shapes to run through tests and fuzzing and stuff. The other thing is encoded length for DAG CBOR, the DAG CBOR encoder. You can run this over a node to get the length that node will encode as a block in using DAG CBOR. There is discussion in the PR for that ended up mostly hopefully in the docs for that may not be, if you're reaching for that as a pre-allocation technique, may not end up being more efficient to do that. So this is something that it's very particular for the use case that you want. We wanted it in GraphSync because GraphSync does a memory budgeting thing for limiting clients. It's like a client quota. And so it's not for efficiency, it's more for making sure clients don't use up their memory budget. And so this is just a useful way of accounting for when I end up sending this message, I can add up the different portions of the message to build it, to send it. And so so it's the way it's used means that we're not using it for pre-allocation efficiency. We're using it for a different kind of efficiency mechanism. Anyway, docs are in that. And that's it for me, I think.
Muslim, do you have some stuff to share about incremental updates?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I've, as discussed earlier, started documenting my thoughts around it, and also doing a little bit of prototyping. We'll probably by the end of the week have something in a gist for you and maybe more people to look at. Be kind when you review it, but it will be out. So that's it.
It will be a difficult problem. We will be kind, I think. I hope.
Cool. Looks like I'm next up, more on the process regard, not anything cool engineering wise here. But as folks may have seen, Protocol Labs' engineering NGRES working group is trying to get out of its internal PL Slack. It's something we've talked about for a while, and we're finally trying to get the trigger pull to make that happen. So involved in that effort. So you'll see more channels sprouting up in IPFS Discord. We're not doing anything to the existing matrix channels. The existing bridges will all live, and we can see if it makes sense to add additional bridges between any new channels that get created. But that effort is well underway, and you should start to see even more presence from PL engineers here this week as we do the lift this week. And there's, I tried to link to anything here where the posts have been, including the public notice on this, which then links to a thread in IPFS Discord. So if you have any issues or have comments, please leave. Myself and others will be kind of going through those to make sure we're listening and paying attention and addressing any problems that come up. But thanks for your patience in this as we work through these bumps and at least get us one step out of being totally siloed in PL Slack, even though knowing that some of that is going to be bringing gravitational pull to Discord, which is not our ideal end state, but it's a transitionary move for now. So thanks. It looks like Jeropo, you're up next.
Hey, yeah. So last time I presented my custom chunker I was writing on, and some of you were curious to know about the performance. So I fixed some different bugs, mainly the padding, which is all of the copy I was doing was not properly aligned to 4K. So it was far slower than it actually needed. And so I've just finished a performance comparison. Basically, it is about 10 times faster than GoCar at the exact same job. So just taking a file and making a car out of it, I am 10 times faster. Yeah, that's all.
Sweet.
There is a performance improvement in Go Unix FS node that hasn't made it into GoCar yet that we should apply, because that 10 times made.
I don't think. Yeah, but I mean,
It won't match it. It won't match it, but it will. The 10 times is
Yeah,
the
exactly.
thing going
But
on there that doesn't need to be.
like Linux to IPFS is actually faster than the write speed of my disks, just because I'm doing ref links, so ref copies. So like in the link I shared, I show the BetterFS tool, which shows like the set shared is about 32 gigabytes. So like I'm not actually copying any data from file. I'm just reading it to hash it. And like obviously there is a bit of overhead because you have to write like the car and the linking DAGs. But yeah, basically that's it. So like,
Chunk, are you aligning to 4K because of average inode size or something?
yeah,
What's
exactly. If you do a copy on like non 4K, it makes an actual copy. It doesn't make a ref link. And so to have ref links, I just insert like empty nodes. I just it is blocks that are of zeros, and I just insert 0 blocks, and that pads my actual data to 4K, and it works.
So if you want to share some more performance measurements, I don't know if you use what's it called, the PPROF system in Go.
I know it. Yeah.
If you can be bothered, I would love to see some of the probably the PNG format outputs are the easiest ones to post on the web to share with other people.
Yeah.
Or the SVGs of the PPROF itself, but those pictures can be really, really fun to share sometimes.
I have a question though.
Other systems
like GoCar spend most of its time below 10% CPU usage. So like, can you show IO bound things on pprof? If I remember correctly, you cannot.
No, I don't think I have a good answer to that. Maybe somebody else out there will. I have not figured out how to draw that well, other than drawing the wall clock time one instead of the CPU one kinda tells you that a little.
Because the main issue of GoCar is that it spends most of its time waiting for my disks, while Linux to IPFS doesn't. So that's why it's faster.
Anyone else wants to say stuff on the record? I think we've already flown through the agenda that's in the note stocks here. If you want to do stuff on the record, feel free. Otherwise, I guess we can shift into the second half of the meeting and have more of the roundtable that's a bit more conversational off the record. Last call, anybody want to speak? Three, two, one. All right.